Okay, welcome back. I'm very much excited to welcome you back to Bold Vision Academy, where we simplify academic research. So my name is Dr. Abraham Kiruga, and today we'll be tackling qualitative data analysis methods, a critical part of research for thesis, dissertation, and academic projects. So if you're new here, you can hit the subscribe button for more research-related content. And if you are looking for one-on-one coaching on research, you can check out our number in the comments, and you can contact us for one-on-one and step-by-step research coaching. So now let's get started. So welcome back. So what is qualitative data? So that is where we are starting. So what is qualitative data? We start from there before we could check the various methods that are used to analyze qualitative data. So what is qualitative data? So before we talk about analysis, let's define what is qualitative data. So unlike the numbers that we have in quantitative research, so qualitative research deals with qualitative data, which comes in words, in meaning, in experience. So it is a data that you cannot quantify in numerical number. So it's a kind of data that you get from interviews, from focus group, from observations, and even from open-ended survey responses. So they are not in numerical numbers. So that is the kind of the data that we are talking about in this session. Then the questions back in our mind is, how easy it is to analyze such kind of the data that you cannot quantify in a numerical number. So it is a challenge to many researchers, to many students who are doing their projects. So today we're going to break it down and see various methods that we have and how they are used and how we can differentiate them and how we can use them in our research, so that we stop that idea of confusing the kind of the method that you're using in analyzing your data. So we have 6 popular data analysis methods, and number 1 is thematic analysis. So we have what we call thematic analysis. And this is best for identifying the patterns and themes. So what is it? So thematic analysis involves identifying the recurring themes and patterns in the data. So it is not something that you can quantify in numbers. So it involves trying to understand the recurring patterns and themes in the data. For example, if you're interviewing teachers about challenges in the online learning or online teaching, so common themes that might include is the technical difficulties. So they will tell you the technical difficulties that they are going through, the student engagement, and the curriculum adaptation. So how easy is it that you can be able to quantify that into numbers? So it's not easy, and therefore the methods that we have here are going to assist us in trying to understand how we can analyze such of data. So how do you do it? So you must read and familiarize with yourself with the data. So you must be able to read and understand the type of the data that you are dealing with. Then there is issue we call coding the meaningful phrases. You code them, the meaningful phrases in that data, and you group the codes into themes if they are related, and then you interpret and present the findings. So that is how we do it. You read and familiarize yourself with the data. You code the meaning phrases in that data, and you group the codes into themes. If all that related to technical difficulties, you call them student and engagement, you put them in one themes, and curriculum adaptation, you put them in one themes, because that will help you to do the interpretations. So the advantage with the thematic analysis is that it is flexible and it is easy to use. And the disadvantage that we have, which is the main one, it can be very, very much subjective. So it depends with your understanding and how you interpret that data, because it is not in 1, 2, 3 or in percentage. No, it is how you are going to group that data into themes and interpret it. So it is very, very much subjective. So this is one of the methods that you can use in doing analysis, and that is how we do it. So you need to code that data. That's what we're saying. You need to read and familiarize yourself with that data. Then point number 2, which is find it very often being used by many students in their work and without even understanding how it is done and why, is content analysis. Content analysis. Very common, but it is used in the wrong way. So this is the best for categorizing large data sets or large data text data set or large text data set. So if the data is very large and it is form of text, then you can use content analysis. So it is a systematic method that involves categorizing text based on frequency and patterns. For example, if you're analyzing social media comments, so you need to categorize opinions on a product. So you're analyzing social media comments to categorize opinion on how they comment about a certain product. So that is a content analysis. And it's useful for large amount of text. So if the amount, for example, if you're looking at social media comments in a Facebook for product, it can be the people who have commented is 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 comments. So how do you analyze that? So you can only use content analysis. And the disadvantage that we have with content analysis is it lacks deep context. It lacks deep context comparison to thematic analysis. So that you cannot compare it well with the themes, because here we are talking about the thematic, the themes. It lacks deep context compared to thematic analysis. So you are not going to deep, because here you are going to direct to the themes and categorize into the themes, but here you're just generalizing the content. So that is one of the major disadvantage of the content analysis. Then we have number 3, which is discourse analysis. Number 3, we have discourse analysis. Discourse analysis. It's best for language and communication studies. So people who are in the communication and languages, so they most of the time they are supposed to use discourse analysis. Why and what is it? It examines how language is used in communication, including social and cultural influences. So, and that is why it is more common in the areas of language and communication studies, because they are going to examine how a language is being used in communicating, including the social communication and also how we communicate in our cultural values in a society. So this one best for those who are doing literature, fasihi, and other political studies, to be able to understand how language and communication is being used to pass information. So the advantage we have here is it helps to understand context and power dynamics. So the way we communicate is very important, and therefore if we are going to dissect how we communicate, then we are going to understand the context and how the power dynamics operates. Okay, So it is best used in, for example, in analyzing political speeches to see how leaders use persuasive languages. And that is what we are talking about, discourse analysis. So if you're political science, that I was talking about those are doing political studies, they use discourse analysis to interpret the language and the speeches and the communication that the political class are using to communicate their ideas, and to use a persuasive language for the people to borrow on their ideas. So we use discourse analysis. And one of the disadvantages, it requires deep linguistic understanding. You must be able to know the type of the language that you are going to use to communicate. And therefore, if you are the one who is going to do discourse analysis to interpret the political speeches and the languages, then you must be somebody who understands the dynamics of linguistics, so that you can be able to drive a meaning from the statement that they present. Because from the practice, I've heard many of the politics, what they say is not what they mean, and therefore that requires a discourse analysis, so that you have a deep understanding of linguistics, and therefore you can get a meaning from what they are communicating. And number 4, we are having narrative analysis. Number 4, we have narrative analysis, which is another method that we can use to analyze qualitative data. And this is best for studying personal stories and experience. So it focuses on how people tell their stories and the meaning behind it. Because somebody can tell a story, but it has a meaning behind it. So the way you narrate a story, the way you narrate your experience, then you can do a narrative analysis to understand the hidden meaning behind the story that you are sharing. Okay, like studying how cancer survivor describe their healing journey. So he or she is going to narrate a story on the journey he has walked as a cancer survivor, and therefore for a researcher to be able to analyze such kind of data, then you require to use analytic analysis skills to be able to analyze such kind of qualitative data. And one of the advantage of this is that it captures deep personal experiences. It is able to bring in the deep experiences of what you have gone through. And remember, remember you are giving a story of what happens. Therefore, it is time consuming and very subjective. You can modify your story to suit the current condition, and therefore it becomes, you can take a long time giving that experience. And therefore, if I'm analyzing that, it can take time for me to get a meaning from the story that you are bringing forth. So, and that takes us to another method, number 4, that is the grounded theory. Grounded theory. The grounded theory, which is based for developing new theories from the data. And this is very, very much important for the researchers to be able to come up with a new theory instead of relying with the only theory that we have. So this is a method where theories emerges from the data rather than being tested. So here you don't use a theory to test the reality, but you use data to develop a theory. So that is why we're saying the theory emerges from the data. So from the data that you have collected, and when you're analyzing, you come up a theory. For example, studying how remote work affects employee motivation. So then building a theory based on common themes. So which theory can you drive from those who are doing remote work? How does remote work affects employee motivation? Because those who are doing remote work, they work overtime, they work so many hours because they need to finish what they are supposed to do, and they spend even the whole night working. So you can use that one to come up with a theory and build a theory using the common themes from that perspective. And therefore it creates new data-driven theories, being one of the most important advantage of this. So it's able to create new data-driven theories, and it's require deep data immersion. So it is not something that is very easy. It require deep data immersion. You have to sink deep into the data for you to get a meaning, interpret it, and come up with a theory. So that is why we're saying it requires deep data immersion, or deep data. You have to dig deep to the data. You have to flow in the data. You have to go deep to the data so that you can derive a meaning, and from that data, a theory, you can come up with a theory. So that is why it is called grounded theory, because you start from the ground. Then that takes us to number 6, which is phenomenological. That is a phenomenological analysis. That is phenomenological analysis, best for understanding the lived experience. Okay, what has happened. So you want to understand what has happened. For example, explore how people experience a phenomenon. How do people experience COVID-19? So you can use phenomenological analysis for you to interpret the qualitative data on how people experience COVID-19 since it has happened. Example, studying the experience of refugee adjusting to a new country, refugees coming to a country. So what is their experience? So it is after it has happened, that is when now you try to figure out and analyze that data and interpret that data. So it requires deep emotional and psychological insights, because some of people will not be able to narrate or to give a story on what happened on their experiences. So it requires deep emotional and psychological insights for you to understand the people and to understand the situation. And it is hard to generalize findings because each person have a different experience. For example, in COVID-19, there are people who suffered and there are people who benefited by working hard in their businesses, by selling, for example, the foodstuffs. But there are those who suffered who are selling other types of goods which are not needed or which were not that necessary during that time. So that is what we are saying here, that phenomenological analysis is best for understanding the lived experience. And therefore, that marks the end of our 6 best qualitative analysis method that we can use. So which method could you choose? So it depends with your study, which study or which area are you. So choosing the right methods depends on your research questions and the data type, the type of the data that you require. So if you're studying pattern, you can go for thematic or content analysis. And if you want to understand communication, you can use discourse analysis. And if you want to understand personal experience, you can use analytic or phenomenological analysis. So that is how you can choose it. So I have seen many students confusing on which one method you use it. So this session can help you, or this video can help you to have an insight on understanding the research questions and the data type that you have, and through that you can be able to select the best qualitative method that you are going to use for your study. And if you want to build a new theory, then a grounded theory will be best fit for that scenario. Okay, so that is how you can choose. Okay, and therefore you have it, the 6 powerful qualitative data analysis method that can help you to tackle your research with confidence. Okay, so it will help you to tackle your study with confidence. So if you find that this video is very useful for you, you can like, you can subscribe, and you can also share with your colleagues, with your researcher, with your students, so that they can also benefit from this. This is very practical, and therefore it can help them. So see you in the next video. Thank you.